Have you ever felt like life was gently, or maybe not so gently, nudging you out of hiding? As if the quiet cocoon you once cherished suddenly started feeling too tight, too small, like it could no longer contain the person you were becoming. If you've watched my previous videos, then you'll remember. I spoke about a powerful spiritual expansion. I experienced one that led me into a deep, prolonged phase of isolation. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll link it here so you can check it out later. But in short, after that awakening, we entered a year-long retreat from the world. I did almost nothing in the external sense, yet inside, I was overflowing with happiness and peace. Then one night, everything changed. I had a vivid, almost electric, lucid dream, the kind you wake up from breathless knowing it wasn't just a dream. In that dream, I was told very clearly, it's time. Begin preparing for your real work. And so quietly, without announcing it to the world, I started. I began working in silence, still cloaked in solitude. My husband Jay eventually relocated to where I was, and alongside him, my beloved Bunny, my soft, furry companion, who in his own quiet way anchored me through this inward journey. Together, we lived surrounded by stillness, watching seasons shift and energy settle. But something started to stir again around 2021. At first, it was just a feeling, a slight internal pull, a whisper that maybe, just maybe, the hermit phase was coming to an end. And then that whisper became a hum, a vibration, until it was undeniable. I was being guided back into the world. Perhaps you've been feeling something similar, that gentle but persistent call to return, to reemerge after a long retreat inward. So today I want to share with you the 7 signs I began noticing as my isolation phase started to dissolve. These signs were subtle at first, but they grew louder, clearer, and eventually became impossible to ignore. Sign 1, you feel a new chapter is beginning. There's a distinct moment, not always obvious, but deeply felt when you realize something has shifted. For me, it was like the atmosphere around me had changed. The air felt different, charged with new possibilities. I couldn't explain it in logical terms, but there was a strong, steady sense that a new chapter was opening. A new cycle was beginning. And I wasn't stepping into it blindly, I was being pulled into it with a kind of quiet certainty. It wasn't just a fleeting thought, it was a knowing, one that settled deeper and deeper over time. Maybe you're feeling it too, like the person you were in the past, even just a year ago, no longer fits. You've been through inner shifts that words can't quite capture. The way you think, how you speak, how you carry yourself, the way you treat others, and most importantly, how you treat yourself. It's all different now. Even if your external world hasn't changed yet, you sense that it will. You just know. The foundation beneath your life is preparing for something new, and you're already standing at the threshold. Sign 2, your home no longer feels like home. This was one of the first physical signs that my internal shift was becoming external. The space I had once adored, my cozy, quiet little home that once felt like a sacred nest, began to feel wrong, cramped, dim, even suffocating at times. I had spent months, even years, in complete peace there. I could go days, even weeks, without stepping outside, perfectly content in the serenity of my bubble. But then slowly I began feeling agitated indoors. The walls felt closer, the air heavier. I felt like a plant whose roots had outgrown its pot. At first, I didn't understand why I was so irritable. I've always been a calm, easygoing person. But I began feeling a low-level restlessness, like I was meant to be somewhere else, though I had no clue where. It was then I realized I hadn't outgrown the space physically, I had outgrown it energetically. Sign 3, your isolation cave starts to crumble. During my isolation, my cave was my previous apartment, a place nestled in nature's arms, surrounded by mountains, lakes, creeks, and wild deer. It was a dream sanctuary for someone seeking peace and reconnection with the soul. But then, the energy shifted. Even though I loved that place, I began getting intuitive nudges that it was time to leave. This was confusing. I was happy there, or at least I thought I was. But the nudges persisted. And when I didn't act on them, the universe began doing it for me. The apartment complex, which had once been family-owned and warm, suddenly changed hands. It was sold to a corporate entity. And from that point forward, everything changed fast. Inspections became constant. Random cosmetic improvements were forced upon us, painting the balcony, repainting the walls, intrusive staff coming in and out, noise disruptions, all of it relentless. It felt like our peace was being systematically dismantled. We were no longer welcome in our own sanctuary. And deep down, I knew why. When your soul is being guided toward change, but you hesitate or resist, life often begins pushing you, sometimes gently, sometimes not so gently, out of your comfort zone, until you finally listen. So we packed up and left. Sign for crowds no longer drain you. For most of my isolation phase, I avoided people. Completely. I would grocery shop during the quietest hours just to avoid being around anyone. My favorite walking trail along the creek, I loved it, but only when it was empty. If I saw someone else walking it, I would literally turn around and go home. Social energy felt overwhelming. Too loud, too fast, too much. But near the end of my isolation phase, that changed almost overnight. Suddenly going out didn't feel heavy. Striking up a casual conversation with a stranger felt easy. Sitting in a cafe surrounded by chatter and clinking coffee cups was no longer overstimulating. It was enjoyable. In fact, for the first time in a long time, I found myself energized by connection. Even the small talk I used to avoid now felt meaningful in its own way. It was as if the part of me that had healed in silence was now ready to experience the world again, but from a new, stronger, clearer version of myself. If any of these signs are showing up in your life, trust that you're not imagining it. You may be slowly emerging from your cocoon, and what's waiting on the other side is more aligned, more alive, and more you than ever before. Stay tuned, because in the next part of this video, I'll be sharing the remaining signs, including the emotional, spiritual, and even physical shifts that helped me recognize the hermit phase was ending and my reemergence had begun. So as I began to feel more at ease in public again, no longer drained by crowds but almost recharged by them, I knew something deep had shifted. It wasn't just about energy, it was about identity. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't shrinking to stay safe. I was starting to feel like myself again, no matter who was around. That shift led to another powerful change. Sign 5, you have learned how to set boundaries. This one is huge, and it's something many spiritually sensitive people struggle with, sometimes for years. When you're highly empathic, like many of us are, it can feel natural to absorb other people's emotions, to prioritize their needs, to be the one who holds space for everyone else. You feel their sadness, their urgency, their chaos, and without even thinking, you start bending yourself to meet their energy. It's not that we don't care about ourselves. It's that for so long, we didn't even know we were allowed to say no. But when you've spent months or even years in solitude, something beautiful happens. You start tending to your needs. You learn the rhythm of your energy. You get really good at listening to your own limits. There's no one else to please, no performance to put on, no roles to play. Just you, with yourself. That was the biggest gift of my isolation phase. I learned how to protect my energy without guilt. I practiced saying no. I practiced letting others deal with their discomfort rather than rushing in to fix it. I realized I didn't need to be everyone's emotional safety net, especially if it came at the cost of my own peace. Now, when I'm around others, I don't feel drained, because I know where I end and where someone else begins. I know how to hold space without losing myself in it. If you're feeling this shift too, it's a powerful sign. You're not just ready to return to the world, you're ready to do it with self-respect, clarity, and grace. Sign 6, you start caring about your appearance again. This one really surprised me. During the thick of my isolation phase, my appearance was the last thing on my mind. I was deep in healing, shedding old identities, working through shadow. My hair was wild and free, and not in a stylish way. I didn't brush it much, just ran my fingers through it. My wardrobe, comfort-only mode. Faded black sweatpants, oversized tops, clothes that let me blend in and disappear. Makeup, I honestly forgot it existed. And you know what? At the time, I loved it. It felt like freedom. I wasn't dressing for the world anymore. I was dressing for the Kayam, for solitude, for softness. But slowly, something shifted. One day I felt like putting on a little lip tint. Another day I spent a few extra minutes brushing out my hair. I found myself drawn to colors again, to textures and fabrics that made me feel good. I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me. Because suddenly it was fun to take care of myself again, to decorate the body that had carried me through such a long, silent journey. It wasn't vanity, it was celebration, a signal that I was stepping back into visibility, that I was ready to be seen again. Sign 7, you feel ready to share your calling of all the signs. This one is the clearest and the most sacred. You know you're emerging from the cocoon when your work, your voice, your truth can no longer stay hidden. When sharing feels less like a choice and more like a soul obligation. For me, this clarity came after a vivid, lucid dream, one that told me it was time to start preparing for my real work. And so I did, quietly, patiently. I began teaching myself everything I needed to know to create the kind of videos you're watching now, even how to draw, how to edit, how to tell a story. I spent nearly 2 or 3 years learning behind the scenes crafting in silence. No announcements, no audience, just me, my inner voice, and the gentle guidance that said, keep going. Eventually, the nudge to share became too loud to ignore. It no longer felt right to keep what I had learned all to myself. The wisdom I had received didn't belong to me alone. It was meant to be given away, offered, released. So I started sharing. And almost instantly, every sign I've mentioned so far began happening. The energy shifted, opportunities opened, new people appeared. The isolation phase, which had felt endless, at times gently started to dissolve. I didn't force my way out, I flowed out. Because when your time in the cocoon is complete, life will open the door, and all you have to do is walk through. Conclusion. The cycle continues, of course. I know this isn't a one-time journey. I have no doubt there will come another season of solitude, a future time when I'll feel the urge to retreat again, to turn inward, to listen more closely, to reset. That's the rhythm of a spiritually aligned life. Expansion, then retreat. Emergence, then stillness. Inhale, exhale. A beautiful natural ebb and flow. So wherever you are in your journey right now, whether you're deep in the inner work or just beginning to stretch your wings, honor your timing. There's no rush, no deadline, only truth. Let me know in the comments. Have you noticed any of these signs lately? Are you feeling the quiet tug to rejoin the world? Or are you still savoring the beauty of being alone? Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Warmly decode the hidden.